Our film starts with Count Dracula reading by candlelight. His servant comes in and brings him blood, and we see that he's reading a Playboy. We find out that Dracula has made his home a tourist attraction with the hidden goal of finding someone with a specific blood type that will bring his bride Vampira back. We then head to an airport where a guy is trying to get a group of playmates onto a bus so they don't miss their trip. We find out that they're headed to Dracula's castle to spend the night. Back at the castle, a young girl named Helga comes through. We find out through Dracula's servant, who's dressed like him, that she's an actress who plays Dracula's bride in the attraction. She tries to quit, but the servant instead locks her in a room and then lets Dracula know the situation. The servant convinces him to bite her just to get her under a spell. He heads down to her, pushes her into a chair, and then bites her. Apparently he drinks too much, though, making her a full vampire. Worried about her not being able to control herself, Dracula decides to play himself during the attraction to keep her in line. The night of the attraction, he ends up being correct as Helga jumps at any opportunity to get near her neck, almost biting a woman looking for a vampire bite photo op.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. I've written the girl that should be photographed.
I'll stop that. Helga, my dear. Allow me. It's better if I do it. I've had more practice.
And again, as the guests get plastic vampire fangs for gifts.
Hold it. Not a nice one, Count.
We then find that they have put something in the guest's drink in order to make them drowsy, so they all head to bed. Dracula then takes Helga to the back room, places her in a coffin, and then sadly stakes her with a crossbow. So if you thought she was going to be the main female vampire based on her being on cover art and promotional posters, you'd be wrong. She doesn't even make it 20 minutes in. On the bright side, though, Linda Hayden at least does become a vampire in this film, unlike in 1976 The Blood of Dracula, where it's teased the entire film, but doesn't happen. Anyway, after dark, when the playmates fall asleep, Dracula enters their room and takes blood samples of all of them. They end up finding the blood type they need, but end up getting confused which girl it came from. Dracula heads to the body of Vampira and explains to his servant that she was poisoned by drinking the tainted blood of a peasant, and the transfusion should fix her. During the transfusion, they begin to notice how much color is going into her skin before she eventually becomes black. Vampira, upon realizing she is now black, is very happy and wishes she could see herself in a mirror, but Dracula is somewhat worried about what the townspeople might think. As he sends her off, Dracula and his servant decide that the best thing to do is to try and do the procedure again to turn Vampira white. This means finding the playmates wherever they are and getting more vials of their blood. On their flight to London, they're sat next to a guy heading there to have a blood youth treatment performed on him, which he won't stop talking about. The blood talk makes the vampires hungry, and when severe turbulence results in the power of the plane going out, Vampira bites him. Once they get to London, Dracula decides to head out, while he forces Vampira to stay in. But the longer they stay, the more Vampira starts to acclimate to modern society, which bothers Dracula and his very old school ways. Meanwhile, Vampira calls one of the guys involved in the Playboy shoot, Mark, and sets up a meeting with him. She picks him up and brings him back to Vlad, who then proceeds to bite him in order to control him. He then tells Mark to get the blood from the Playmates via giving him a drug to knock them out and fake fangs to extract the blood. Mark then wakes up in his room when one of the girls he sets up a date with comes over. Dracula calls and gives him the code word. Mark initially resists, so Dracula takes over his body completely. Mark ends up getting the blood without biting her when the girl cuts her foot running from Dracula. The next time it happens is with the girl's handler, Angela, who is there to inform Mark that he can't see the girls anymore. She gets the phone call and gives the code word, resulting in Mark tying her up, then making a date with another of the Playmates. Vampira, frustrated and Dracula not allowing her to go anywhere, ends up sneaking out of their hideout and shows up to Mark's place just as he's extracting the blood from the second Playmate. As Vampira begins seducing Mark, Angela comes to, unties herself, and tries to sneak out of Mark's apartment just to be confronted by Dracula. Dracula then comes in, hypnotizes Mark to not remember anything, including kidnapping Angela, and takes off with her. Back at the Count's, Angela is tied up in their basement. Angela attempts to seduce the Countess through awkward flirting. Vampira unties Angela for reasons, allowing Angela to knock her out with a hook.
I'm Countess Vampira.
And calls Mark, resulting in her getting caught, but not before warning him of Dracula's intent at the group's party. Dracula then calls Mark, but Mark is prepared, so he does not listen to the first part of the conversation, thus not getting hypnotized with the code word. We see him sharpening a wood stake as he's getting the directions. At the Dracula-themed party, Mark shows up and attempts to warn the Playmate about the plan to get her blood, but she only thinks that he's trying to flirt with her. Dracula then orders his servant to put on the blood extraction teeth and take the blood himself. The servant decides to go to the bathroom first, where for some reason he has to take the teeth out and pee, and ends up getting them swapped with some other guy's regular novelty teeth. Meanwhile, back at the party, Vampira attempts to distract Mark so the playmate can be bitten. Dracula finds the guy with the extraction teeth on and hypnotizes him to bite the girl and hand him the teeth. They then turn into a bat and fly away. Back at Dracula's lair, they prepare Vampira for the transfusion, but first decide to drop Angela into a well because she knows too much, even though clearly they could have hypnotized her to forget like they did everyone else. The plan is to pour water into the well until she drowns. While the transfusion is going on, Dracula mentions that it doesn't seem to be working. That's when Vampira goes for his neck and bites him.
Bet I've gone wrong.
Mark shows up to Dracula's lair just in time to save Angela. They find Dracula's itinerary where they see he's headed to the airport to take a flight back to Transylvania. Mark and Angela head to the airport, and just before Mark attacks Dracula, we see him turn around, showing that he now has brown skin as well. The film ends with the police stopping Mark, believing he's crazy, and Dracula and Vampira heading on to their flight. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please leave a like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to know every time I update. If you want to help my channel grow, please check out my Patreon, where you can get access to content early, as well as see the content that can't be uploaded here on YouTube. Link will be in the description. Until next time.